Hello there. Can the Tories really fight back from this? Or is it time for a new party to step forward and take up the centre-right reins? Now, if you haven't already done so, please do subscribe and then like and comment below. You may not like poll results and think they're generally misleading. And when the result is a couple of % here and there, then you are probably right to be sceptical. But the latest output from Savanta, in conjunction with electoral calculus, paints a dire picture for the state of the Tory party and will buoy Keir Starmer's Labour Party no end. With Savanta asking the question, are the Conservatives really facing electoral oblivion? Because it puts Labour on for an absolutely crushing electoral victory over the Tories. The Savanta voting intentions results puts Labour on for a stonking 48%, an increase of 3% on the last poll in September. The Tories are down 5% on 28%. The Lib Dems gain 1% and are on 11%. While Reform UK gains 1 point to put them on 4% and the Greens drop a point to go down to 3%. But it's the way these results translate into parliamentary seats that is the eye-opener. This would give Labour a gain of 280 seats to take them to 482, even winning the seat of the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, as well as all the other seats in the north. And the Tories would be left with just 69 seats. The SNP would have 55 and hold all but 4 of the 59 seats in Scotland. The Greens would hold 1 seat, the Lib Dems would gain 10 to have 21 seats, Plaid would end up with 4, and Reform UK would have 0. Now there is a long time to go until the next election, and a week, let alone 2 years, is a long time in politics. And there is another recent poll by Datapol that has the Tories regaining ground by 4% to take them to 32% of the vote, and showing Labour is down 3 at 45%. But that's still a very significant chasm between the two. But if the Savanta results are anything to go by, then our heritage as well as our economy will be expunged from the history books after the next general election. Because all we'd have is 69 faux Tory seats, and the rest will be held by those with Marxist to centre-left politics. And unlike the past, this won't be the traditional tinkering with a bit of wealth redistribution amongst those in the UK. No, this new Marxist to centre-left politics is all about open borders, reparations, ceding control of places like the Falklands and Gibraltar, and splitting the UK asunder with Gordon Brown's totally misguided plan to devolve and then devolve again. And also remember that he may no longer be a Labour MP, but the ghost of Jeremy Corbyn is never far from the heart of the Labour Party itself. And the last Labour manifesto put together by Jeremy Corbyn for the 2019 election when he was leader, a manifesto backed by Keir Starmer, by the way, talked about votes for 16 and 17-year-olds, as well as widening the voting franchise right out to anyone, yes, anyone who was merely resident in the UK. And all this current talk by various Labour shadow ministers about being tough on unions, etc., do you really believe them? Really? I don't. And as for being business friendly, the only thing that Labour sees in business is a large pot of money to be sucked dry. And the nearer we get to an election with a Labour majority projected to be this size, the faster the money will drain out abroad. And if you think 500,000 people a year net incoming is bad, Labour will in all probability double that, at least. We've already seen that under Tony Blair. Labour's view on migration is, The more the merrier. And although Starmer talks about not going back on Brexit today, once his party has its feet under the cabinet table, that will slowly start to be reversed, a little bit at a time, salami slicing our sovereignty away. And then there's all that woke stuff they love so much. As far as I'm concerned, the next Labour government is going to make Tony Blair's lot look like UK-loving true Conservatives. Now, I'm not extolling you all to go and vote Tory, because they are now no better than Labour. No, the Tories are now laying the ground nicely for a new Labour administration at the moment, and at the same time pandering to those employers seeking to open new boxes of cheap labour. Sunak's latest wheeze is to give out special rural visas so that people can come into the country, be spread out into rural areas and do all the low-level manual jobs in agriculture. And the government's Migration Advisory Committee said we need to do this to stop the depopulation of rural areas. And then after 5 years they can get settled status, presumably with families too. Depopulation? I only have to drive around a bit to see where the houses are being built, and they're being built everywhere, and hotels are being filled up, soon to be holiday parks and student accommodation as well. And I don't see much depopulation anywhere, except for possible reports of it in Scotland, where everyone is probably on their way down south, for some reason or another. But mostly just more people than available housing. So where will these new rural visa people live? And if they are on low wages, how much will it cost the taxpayer to top those wages up? And how long will they remain in their rural setting? Anyway, now on to King Charles and his progressive coronation oath. Over to you, Richard.
Thank you, Jeff, and good evening. And it is a cold, icy day here in Corsham in Wiltshire, so I hope you are wrapped up warm and be careful how you tread on the ice. I nearly took a tumble myself earlier. Oh, what a sight. Anyway, according to reports in the Daily Telegraph, our illustrious king will be doing his utmost best to be inclusive during his coronation, and be adding some dialogue into his vows where he can claim to be the defender of all faiths. How incredibly progressive of him. I am sure the liberal left media and royal sycophants will be praising him for such a progressive move, but I am sure they will all be ironed out before his big day, when he is crowned with his God-given right to rule from the Christian faith, which now will be legitimised by other faiths as well. Yes. Oh yes, this all ties in very well with other events taking place simultaneously, well, pretty much simultaneously, such as the completion of the Abrahamic family house in Abu Dhabi. What do you mean? Haven't you heard of it before? Haven't you heard about the merging of Christianity with Islam and Judaism, which has been, something that our Pope, the Pope, has been pushing for quite a while? Oh yes, this is all very progressive, don't you know? Get yourself ready for a new religion which is about to emerge, and that new faith will have no place for the actual gospel basis of Christianity by adding in a works-based salvation from the other religions it will now be associated with. Yes, that'll all be chucked into its new theological premise. Anyway, this homogenized one-world religion will sit quite nicely with King Charles's new coronation vows, and let's be honest, including a certain religion into the new vows is actually a very shrewd move on behalf of King Charles, when you consider the fact that in another 20 years' time, the demographical composition of Britain will be a majority for a religion that's sort of been creeping across our borders recently. So it's best we get our religious faiths all mixed up into one faith, just in case the demographical change turns into a powder keg. Now, don't get all worried about King Charles's behaviour doing this. He's a decent chap who associates with and has held close counsel with the most savoury and upstanding members of society, hasn't he? Oh, and an interesting point you may not be aware of is some historians believe that King Charles is not only descended from Vlad Dracul, but also from a certain prophet whom I will not name. Interesting. You can see the similarity between Prince Andrew and Vlad Dracul, by the way. I mean, both of them have done some very questionable impaling. Anyway, back to you, Jeff.
Thank you, Richard. And finally, when subscribing, please don't forget to press that little bell and also select the all option, or you won't get any notifications when I publish a new video. And thank you all so much for taking the time to watch the show.